All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. We've just passed Super Bowl this weekend. There's only one way to start off and to recap, in my opinion, the best halftime show of all time. We got Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and our boy Aussie Man Reviews is teeing it up. Boys, tell me what you think about it. It's just
outraged about this. Snoopsy is keeping Middle America happy with this dance. He's like my boot scooting baby is driving me crazy. Fuck me dead. The doctor is climaxing. He has climaxed. Everyone cheers. Who's up next? The fellas point to someone in the man cave. Oh, it's 50 Cent, or as we say down under $1. Why is he upside down? That looks uncomfortable as fuck. He's struggling to blink. He's a dedicated bloke. I don't think I could commentate videos upside down. His necklace is off-brand. It says 02.
Right, I thought we can keep going for. We can go for a long time.
His necklace is off-brand. It says 02.
Wait, I need to stop.
Wait, hold on a second.
Christ.
Who is Aussie? He's just this Australian YouTuber?
Yeah, he's some crazy Aussie dude, man. He's so funny. He did that in like a day. He did that straight away. Got,
I love the off-brand.
Views.
I love the 50 cents chain is off-brand. It says 02.
So good, man. Anyway, Super Bowl, lads. You watched it this weekend. What do you think, man? What was the verdict in the fan household and the butcher household?
Dude, I'm definitely in the point in my life where like I watch 3 minutes of football a year, like, and you go to the game, you have the same conversation. Everybody actually, hey, who are you cheering for? It's like I don't care anymore. I'm just here to get gas with the boys. It's exactly what happened.
You watched it at home, no?
No, I went to a very COVID-friendly condo party. There's a lot of space. I don't know if you guys saw the picture of LA Mayor Garcetti. That was ripping around the internet. You know how they have these really restrictive rules in California, and Garcetti's just walking around the stadium, no mask on. And I think our boy Ramp had a hilarious tweet. He's like, "This is like the record for holding your breath ever." Just photos
exactly.
of Garcetti walking around the stadium.
Yeah, he's the one who said he holds his breath, right?
Yeah, guess I didn't breathe, man.
Ridiculous. Anyway, man, what a crazy that halftime show though. I know this is the European in me, like not even talking about the American football, but man, we got Dre, Snoop, Crip walking on stage, Kendrick coming through, 50 Cent upside down. I mean,
where did you guys watch it?
I was at a bar in Brooklyn, and it was unlimited beer, unlimited wings for like $60 sort of place.
Did you get your money's worth?
I got a few wings in me for sure. Yeah. Jack, what about you? You're watching at home with the
At home, yeah. Actually, a friend of mine was in town randomly, so he came through, but it was just a quiet one in a house, no furniture, a TV and a sofa. That's it. It was good.
That's it, man.
You got the Scarface furnishing, right? Just a giant house, just no furniture.
That's
maybe the desk you're on right now is like
he's got a standing desk, NIA standing desk.
I'm sitting again. Celia told me that the setup last week looked very unprofessional, so I'm back sitting.
I'm back sitting for the same reason. The angle was a little off.
Well,
now we've got the plant back, you know what I mean?
As far as I'm concerned, Bitcoin is still not at 69K, so Stunna is still
one
standing,
of us
boys.
has got to stay.
Yeah.
All right, boys, let's tell people what we're talking about. We are talking about Super Bowl, obviously, but not the football. We're going to talk about breaking down some of the ads, some correlation to early 2000s with the startups. We're going to talk about the crypto ads, break them down. And then we've got some deep edge of the internet stuff today. Jack's going to break down stuff in the Nouns universe and the CCO stuff that he's really a big fan of. We're going to talk a little bit about this alien punk sale, which was over $23 million worth, 8,000 ETH. What was going on there? And then to wrap it up, Trung's going to be talking about Razzlekhan's social engineering course. So lots to cover.
So Razzlekhan, Heather Morgan, let's just make it clear, the $4.5 billion Bitcoin thief. So definitely hang around for that.
The one
launderer, not thief, right?
Launderer, you're right.
The one who was in your DMs.
She didn't steal the money. She didn't. Her and her husband, Ilya, did not steal the money.
So where should we start, boys? I mean, like everyone knows, I mean, for our European listeners, people that don't know all the stuff about Super Bowl, obviously is the biggest event of the year. What is it, like 100 million people watch it plus, and the cool thing with the ads is that people actually like sit down to watch them, and people talk about them after, like we are. And in the early 2000s, there was kind of like a lot of these startups that eventually failed, that were pumping
In
out
the year 2000, yeah.
year
crazy.
2000, right? So a lot of people have been discussing the parallel between this time around. We had a lot of crypto exchanges and people focus on crypto, and the bears will say that might happen again in the future. But there was the one that really was noticeable was the Coinbase one. Did you guys obviously watch this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we watched. So there are four main ones. There's like eToro, FTX, Coinbase, and
Crypto.com.
and Crypto.com.
Yeah.
We'll discuss and kind of talk about each of those individually. But the first thing I want to ask for Jack, which is the advertising expert here, is like, can you tell the listeners how big of an advertising day the Super Bowl is? Bilal noted 100 million viewers. It's like, and today, Oscars have gone to shit. Is there anything on this level now? A single day event?
I would say, like, in old school advertising terms, no, but it's also like there's like some prestige with it that's just been a holdover for decades, right? It might not be the most effective anymore, but it's definitely like the one that everybody, in the advertising industry, like, you want to get your name on a Super Bowl ad, or you want to contribute to one. It is kind of if you're a football player, the Super Bowl is playing. If you work in that industry, it's getting something on TV during that game.
It's just like you're saying, there's just a built-in gravitas from all these years.
For sure, yeah. And like working on a brand that can afford to advertise in the Super Bowl is another, another reason you would maybe slog away, like making banner ads for Verizon for 3 years, because then maybe you're going to get a shot at the Super Bowl ad at some point, right? Like the majority of the advertising work is way less sexier than the Super Bowl ad. People, because it's like, the context is a little different. It's not like, hey, go and buy this product for $4.99. It's like this huge, grandiose story about the brand where you hire top talent normally, and maybe collaborate with a director outside of this world. One thing I would say, and maybe this is just me being jaded over the years, is like the quality of the ads is just like shit, to be honest. Like, like even 5 years ago, there was just like a different level of like care, finesse, like cleverness. And maybe that's like a symptom of like people not spending as much time in that industry, or not putting as much weight on creativity in that. Now you've got like, the Bilals of the world that can put an ad in front of the right person at the right time, in whatever geography they're in.
At the moment of intent. At the moment of intent. There you
I
go.
like you put your hand up. That was the way you described it.
That was the impression. That was when you were explaining. It's like, the moment that you're signaling you want to purchase. I'm going to be there. That's Bilal.
You got to get
exactly.
right.
Bilal's got a keynote for that for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think like there's maybe parallel to like old print ads, right? Where you would get like the middle spread of the New York Times or the second page of the New York Times. Like there's still like cultural weight to it, but is it like the most intelligent way to spend money? You could probably argue no in most cases. Yeah.
Like if you were a fintech company or neobank or crypto exchange, you wanted to convert customers, I'd definitely try to find an up and coming podcast starring 3 individuals that has also a YouTube show, and one of the hosts just stands until Bitcoin hits 69,000. Yeah. That's just me though. That's how I would spend the ad budget. But I've never worked in an ad team for a big corporation, so that's an uninformed opinion, boys. That's just
a good way to think about it.
But let's walk through some of the ads. I'll share a screen here, Bilal, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. And then just while you're pulling up your screen, I was going to say the cost of one of these ads, from what I know, is this year, I think it was like over $6 million just for the ad itself. Like the media, so to speak, $6 million. And I think that's for 30 seconds. And this is hilarious. And obviously 100 million people see it. That doesn't include how much it's going to cost to pay all the different people to be in it, the production budget, all that. So a lot of the time they're spending like 10, 12 $1 million just to get this one ad out there. So Tron's got a nice little...
Yeah, your screen just went off though.
All right,
you can share the screen. Go over it.
All right, so we started with 50 Cent coming down at the halftime show. That was amazing. So my favorite meme from that whole thing was, the guy with the in class, like, is waiting to say something and his head's about to explode. Some dude is like, this is my favorite meme, is like, they flipped that guy upside down for the listeners, and it's like basically 50 Cent's just waiting. He's like, yo, Dre, hurry up, dude. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Because if you didn't see it, 50 is looking a little bit husky. I'm not trying to fat shame him.
Yeah.
But the inflation joke started coming around. Like, inflation's getting out of control. 50 Cent looking like $1 right now. That was kind of the joke. I'm not about that. I'm just saying what I heard. And actually, to be honest, he looks kind of good, man. Like, he's like older. Like, you get the barrel chested as you get older. But he was mad fit when that song came out. You guys remember that, right? In the club.
Yeah, I mean, he had like a 12-pack.
Yeah, that was insane, bro. So I had a bunch of these Kanye things. We can flip through them. All right, so this first ad here, this is ranking from the worst to the best ad. This eToro ad. This is literally what the entire ad looks like. It looks like any other ad for any other company ever, right? It was like a total nonchalant. I didn't even know eToro did Bitcoin trading, so that worked. So now I know that they're in the game, all right? So there's that ad, total nothing burger. The next one was LeBron for Crypto.com. This was just so underwhelming, and it's just so consistent with the rest of what Crypto.com's doing. It's like, let's just pay just the biggest names in the world buku bucks, which fair enough, it might work, right? I mean, they already own the rights to the Staples Center where the Lakers play, but not super inspired. To Jack's point, where is the inspiration in these Super Bowl ads
That one was
now?
supposed to be LeBron talking to a young LeBron.
A younger version of himself, right? Yeah. I mean, it looks really good.
But is Crypto.com an exchange? I don't even know what Crypto.com is.
It is an exchange, to my knowledge. I don't. Okay. I might be wrong, but I mean, they're splashing on Matt Damon. I finally watched that Matt Damon ad. Yeah. It is indecipherable. That Matt Damon Crypto.com ad makes no sense, but there's Matt Damon in it. So, anyways, the next one was that I actually put Coinbase as second because of how much I love Larry David, and he did the FTX one. But
so wait, let's explain this for people who are only listening.
Well, Bilal, why don't you talk through what happened?
So basically, Coinbase, their whole commercial was a QR code bouncing around the screen in the way that old school DVD sign used to go around the screen. Yeah. And we can maybe show an example of that in a second.
Yeah. But I posted a video I found online. It was quite popular. So this is to the listeners, they were watching the QR code, as Bilal explained, bounce around the screen. And they wanted the QR code to, tap the corner to fit exactly into the corner. The scene was made famous in The Office. But it's just so funny because it's just a bunch of bros like cheering about the dumbest things, which is what bros do. So here they go. It's so these bros completely lose their mind when the QR code corners. And for the listeners here that aren't watching, our boy Toby Lucky, the new board member for Coinbase and CEO of Shopify, retweeted that. He liked that content. All right. So,
pumping his bags.
Yeah.
Pumping his bags.
Man, Jack's back. He's all settled in. Just no old bard, right? And then the last one, and actually, Jack, I think in our DMs, you said that you liked this one very much, the Larry David ad.
Mm-hmm. So go back 1 second, Trung, to that last one, just with a call to action on this one.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Could you read it out? Could you just read it out?
Yeah.
So the QR code takes you to a little microsite.
Yeah, a microsite. It says the offer expires. So I'll tell you exactly what the offer is. If you clicked on the QR code, it took you to this microsite. You could claim $15 in Bitcoin if you had never done it before. If you're an existing customer, you get submitted into a lottery of sorts to win $1 million. So I think the entire ad cost them 14 mil. And we can talk through the economics quickly because the individual that did this, or the CMO or the head of marketing, Kate Touch, I believe is her name. She wrote a blog post about it. So I can tell you guys some of the things that happened. The website briefly went down because Coinbase,
it crashed, right?
Yeah, it crashed. They were expecting to get quote unquote millions of hits. It turns out they got 20 plus million simultaneous hits. So that's absolutely wild, right? And the website went down. It was 6 times their expectation, the benchmark. So I guess they were guessing 3 to 4 mil. The campaign was called Wag Me. So we're going to make it. And in the blog post, she actually talks about all the some of the other crypto ads during Super Bowl. And it was a very conciliatory tone. It was not competitive at all. It's just like, we're all in this crypto industry together. We're all trying to educate. It's like they struck a very like, we're in this together, which is why it's called Wag Me.
I love
Whatever
Jack's face right now.
That.
Sorry.
So
Jack's face looks like
I'm doing the math on the how many people signed up and got $15 for free. That's why my face was.
Oh, you're doing that? Well, they're planning on giving 100 million more in additional. Like giving away money is all marketing, right? It's all customer acquisition. But our friend Sean Puri in his newsletter actually wrote up back of the envelope on what he thought the numbers were. He said 117 million people watched it. If 20% scanned the QR code, let's say that's about 20% is 25 mil, 10% signed up. They think they got about, and the 20% of those linked to their bank accounts. He says that he thinks 500,000 new customers at a customer acquisition of $90 each. It works out because the $9 acquisition and the 45 per user times 500,000. He thinks it was worth 23 million for them, and it costed about 14 mil. So they made 50% on it.
And we're talking about, I think the key thing, honestly, because that's like direct response metrics, like how many people installed it, signed up, which obviously is the most important thing. But it was the most talked about ad for sure, right? Like,
yeah.
Go on LinkedIn, boys, and scroll down. It'll be every post.
Yeah, breakdown. But the other thing I was going to say, Trung, do you mind just bringing it up again?
Yeah.
Since we got Jack here, and I'm curious, you're a writer, so like in advertising, landing page stuff, a few key things. They've got offer expires, nice time constraint.
Yep.
They got like sign up 15 highlighted, pretty simple, opt in to win. I mean, it's it's a cool idea, but I'd be curious if they do a full breakdown of, in like a few weeks of how it actually performed.
It cost them nothing, basically, that video either, right? So that was, they had to buy the spot. They had to buy the actual ad time, which is a ton of money. But I'll say that as a contrast to FTX's thing, because FTX got Larry David. This is actually my favorite one. I thought it's hysterical. So Larry David co-created Seinfeld, a star and creator of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is a comedy genius, comedy legend. He's worth $500 million. Okay? So he's never done an ad like this before. So I'm just thinking in my mind, like, how much money did you have to be convinced to, like, seriously, I bet he got paid 20, 30 million for this part. It's just like, what's going to move the needle for him? $1 million means nothing to Larry David, right? And he's never done something like this, which means he's gotten offered 1 million times. So the ad, if for the people that haven't seen it and the listeners here, is Larry David is playing like a version of his Curb Your Enthusiasm character, which is a very skeptical, snarky, witty kind of asshole. And like he's going through time criticizing like the greatest inventions that have ever been made, right? Like the very first part of this ad is like he's playing like a pharaoh of Egypt, and somebody brings a wheel to him, and he's like, "Well, what is that? What's the use of that? It looks like a rolling bagel, right?" And so he's making fun of it, and then he makes fun of the U.S. Constitution. He makes fun of indoor toilets. He makes fun of my favorite one was he speaks in Japanese. He's saying that the Walkman will never work because you have to be worrying about the batteries all the time, which is pretty funny. And then I thought this ad was amazing, but what made it particularly interesting was of all the kind of exchanges that we talked about, eToro, FTX, Coinbase, and what's that, crypto? Sam Bankman-Fried is obviously super into the meme culture, right? He talks about this all the time. So he, from a comedy standpoint, obviously he's like, I need to get Larry David. Like I need to do the best version of this possible. But what's interesting is that Larry David's co-creator, the director of this ad, actually talked about how they agreed to do it. Because at the end of the ad, Larry David says very specifically when he's pitched the idea of FTX, he's like, no, that's a terrible idea. Now think about that. For most companies, especially in the bleeding edge technology, you're going to pay somebody 20 million to say your thing's a terrible idea. But the reason why it works with only one person is because Larry David is just such an absurd character, right? And he's just such a curmudgeon that his personality can pull off literally saying in an ad spot you're paying for as FTX that your product is shit, but it works because it delivers on the joke. And that's what Larry David's director said about this, the whole bit. He's like, we agreed to do it because at the end is like, we got what was the funniest to us. And he says his reaction to people saying, don't you feel bad that you're shilling crypto? He said, we don't fucking care because we care about comedy. And like, we got the ending and payoff that we wanted, which was that Larry David was going to shit or say something negative about FTX. but then look wrong in the context of the ad doing it because he had basically tried to talk down on all these great human innovations.
But you know what, though? They softened it, so they must have had a fat check. Because after he said that's a terrible idea, he's like, but I'm usually right about all these things, you know? It's just like,
fair enough.
That's a terrible idea. It would have been 100 times harder.
Oh, you're saying like, yeah, that would have been the full. So I think you nailed it, Jack. I love how Jack is just like, he's like, hold on, Trung. It isn't done yet. So I think you're 100% right there. I did actually miss that part, or I totally forgot about it. But that's a great point. I mean, that's a very good point. They did.
But it's interesting because he's gonna have like a good amount of backlash just based on like where his work is shown and the people who watch it. Like in the same way Matt Damon got like roasted for it. Like if he'd actually gone the whole way and like everybody had the minerals to just leave it as like, nah, that's a terrible idea. I think it like hits the like absurdity levels of the Coinbase thing.
Yeah.
Which is like the same theory of like why content on the internet works is like, this is like this thumb stopping thing. The Coinbase ad was like, yeah, this isn't this like oversaturated celebrity steeped like nonsensical story. Like everybody's just like, what? Is a TV broken?
Yeah.
It's like a really smart, it was a really
like
smart
the Sopranos. Have you guys ever seen have you guys seen the end of The Sopranos? If you haven't, I'm not going to ruin it.
I haven't finished it yet.
It has a very famous ending, which left people going, what the F?
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to ruin it, but I think what you're describing made me think of the Sopranos ending. So any listeners or watchers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Spoiler alert. They actually didn't spoil anything. But that's a great point, Jack. That's actually, I love how Jack came in. He's like, no, hold on, Trung. They didn't quite go all the way. Let me put on my ad hat quickly. But let me give you guys a guesstimate about how much money Larry David made here. All right. I found I can only wrap my head around one comp. All right. So there's one thing we know for sure. Larry David's worth $500 million. So odds are he's not doing this for the money. If he is, it's going to have to move the needle for him. All right. So there's the ad, don't be like Larry. So in 2008, Jerry Seinfeld, who at that time was worth about $500 million, did a series of advertisements for Microsoft, right? He was paid $10 million in 2008 for that. So that's the benchmark. To me, that's the benchmark. And he's in these ads with Bill Gates. So my guess is that Larry David made 30 to 40 million for this. Maybe that's a lot, but I'm guessing 30 mil. That's my number. I'm putting it out there.
That's wild.
Yeah, so that's my guess. But Bilal, let me go back to your Nigel thing where you talk about the .com comparison.
Yeah.
So I can show you guys right now. The screen share is so there are 11 ads in the 2000 Super Bowl by a startup company. So a company that began in quote unquote the last 3-ish years and that was involved in the internet space. So I'm going to rattle off the names for you now. AutoTrader, Computer.com, Epidemic.com, eStamp.com, HotJobs.com, LastMinuteTravel.com, LifeMiners.com, NetPliance, OurBeginnings.com, Pets.com, and WebMD.
Man,
all right.
some throwbacks in
there, bro. So
was LastMinuteTravel.com the same as LastMinute.com? What became LastMinute.com? Because that
very well could be.
Yeah.
Because if it survived,
said it survived. Yeah. I think
so right here, within a year or two of the Super Bowl campaign, called 18 months, 8 of those 11 companies had gone bankrupt or disappeared.
That's wild.
Right. I'm not suggesting this is going to happen to the crypto companies, but this is the parallel people are making. So at the .com rise, there was so much money and they literally had no idea what to do with it. In the Hustle wrote about this 2 years ago, and they spoke to ad executives that were around that time, and they're literally just saying these startups had so much money, they just had nowhere else to put it. Well, let me ask you guys, right? Let's say you're a 1-year-old startup. Your company just raised 150 mil. You're the head of marketing, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to spend 20 mil on marketing." Right? You're probably just thinking, like, "Well, how am I going to spend this? Is this about right?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally doing it right now with one of my clients at that similar number. So it's like kind of a crazy. I mean, I'm not doing all of that, but I'm seeing that, and I'm like, man, that's a lot to get.
So like in your mind, you're like, how do I make my job easier? Should I just buy a Super Bowl spot and like a third of the budget's gone?
Yeah, I guess so. No, it's just, I think especially compared to back then, because there was less obviously digital marketing where you can actually measure stuff. So it is interesting, and I wonder if what the prices were like, if they were more or less.
I think it's $2 million for 30-second spot.
Wow, what back then?
Yeah.
But
what is it now?
I think it's 6. And it actually went up year over year, which I was actually surprised by. Because if you look at the viewership, it's actually gone down over the last few years from like 110 million to 100 or something like that.
But it's like we talked about, it's like one of the last few, everyone's watching, right? It's like one of the last few things.
Completely.
Jack, did you mute yourself or did you have a thought? You're muted, buddy.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like, looking at that chart of all those like bankrupt startups, this, particularly the crypto exchange thing, it does feel like close to a winner take all business.
Right.
So it's just like show up, throw your money around, like see if you can, if you can get 500,000 users off the back of a Super Bowl ad, that's like a massive leg up against all your competition. And they're all trying to do the same thing. So if you look at like crypto.com's effort compared to Coinbase, it's just like you set your money on fire. It was such a waste of money.
I agree. No, not a single person is talking about the crypto.com ad, right?
Yeah. And I think this is not really what we're talking about, but it feels to me like FTX is like a fair amount ahead just in terms of like what they're doing to attract more people, whether that's like ad spend or they just said they're launching stocks in the US, I think. So they're going to have like, they'll be the platform for everything, I think.
Oh, any type of asset?
Yeah. So they're bringing like other assets.
Tokenized stocks or just general?
I don't know yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like,
tokenized stocks, like 24-hour trading, 24/7 trading.
It's the degenerate platform, right? FTX. They're very clear about that.
Possible in the best
very
way.
Clear about that. Yeah. Sorry, FTX. We're still accepting sponsorship deals here. All right. And they're launching an NFT platform too, right? So Coinbase is doing crypto native and NFTs. Coinbase is like, okay, we're going to list, a dozen currencies, and they're already this like big beast that probably takes longer to get an asset on Coinbase than it does on FTX, right? So just I think the macro view is like the deadly combination of spending on ads the way they are and like just pulling features into their platforms is it feels to me like they're like
the speed
going to catch up, even though Coinbase has already got to be 80 million wallets in the US or something nuts. They got a big head start.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this as it relates to, I'm just pulling up my screen as well, real quick. Can you see this on Twitter? This is FTX.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
Straight after Coinbase's. It's so good.
It's just Sam Bankman-Fried's hair.
Sam Bankman-Fried's head. Yeah, it's a silhouette. And they did the same thing. And, they didn't pay another 10 million for that, obviously. But quite a smart way to kind of react, which is kind of a big, like even when I'd worked on stuff like this in the past, let me just stop sharing. What would happen is a lot of the brands would spend this crazy money, like that one brand I have in my mind, which was the same CMO that said they don't believe in the internet, they call it internet.
Hold on, Bilal, give some context behiand the listeners.
Oh, so for people who haven't heard that episode, I was working at Google. One of my clients was a big footwear brand, and the CMO said, I don't believe in the internet. We call it the internet. And my team's job was to convince them the internet was a thing. And this is not 2001, right? This is like 2013, 14. So not crazy. But the point was they had all these massive moments. Like they do a Super Bowl ad. There was another time where, without giving too much away, like someone ran in their shoes and won like a big, race or whatever. And like you would go, and you would literally go and like Google the athlete's name. And they weren't showing the ad. You know what I mean? Like they weren't capturing that demand. And that was so infuriating to me because it's like you've already spent 99% of what you need to spend. And now all you got to do is this little reaction part where someone's searching. You just need to take them to the right page, keep the storytelling going. And in this case, it's a similar thing where FTX is like, oh, that's funny what they've done. Let's jump on that trend. It's like called like trend jacking is another way of doing it, describing it. And that's a funny, like whoever made that in quick time is, obviously deserves a raise. And, but it's a smart way to like jump on it for sure.
No, I was gonna say that your CMO sounds like he really liked the eToro Super Bowl ad.
Yeah, 100%. That style.
He's definitely like, the best ad of the four is the eToro one followed by crypto.com. Crypto.com. We're also looking for sponsors and title sponsors, so we're still in the running. No, I had one more thought about the 2000 parallel. So to Jack's point, I agree that it's more of a land grab, very, very different. I think people just call it bubbly toppy, right? That was kind of the instinct that people were trying to say. But there's a finance concept I wanted to bring up, which I think our listeners will appreciate. This is a fun fact fan for this episode. So have you guys ever heard of the skyscraper indicator?
No, what's that?
So over the past 100 years, anytime a skyscraper is built and becomes the tallest building in the world, it like portends an economic downfall or like a drop in the stock market. The rationale being the height of the building and the money, free-flowing capital that allows for it to be built is the peak exuberance of society. Like everybody's getting so rich. They don't know what to do with all this free-flowing money that the only thing that they can think of as a society is to build the tallest building in the world.
It's a physical top signal.
Exactly.
I was going to say, it's a physical, the equivalent is now people buying NFT dogs, you know what I mean?
So it's the skyscraper indicator. So this is where, so the history isn't too far back. We're only going to go about 50 years. So in 1973, Sears Tower in Chicago, I believe now it's called the Harris Tower. Anyways, it becomes the largest tower in 1973. This precedes the stagflation decade in like America, right? And it stays the tallest building in the world until 1998. 1998, the tallest building in the world becomes the Kuala Lumpur building, the Petronas Towers. And the Petronas Towers become the tallest building in the world at the time of the Asian financial crisis. So Malaysia was one of the key countries in the Asian financial crisis. They had gotten so much hot money from the West during the roaring 90s, the boom time of the 90s. And then it stayed the tallest building in the world for 6 years. 2004, Taipei 101 in Taiwan comes the tallest building in the world. What happens a couple of years later? Great financial crisis, right? And then now the tallest building in the world is the Burj Khalifa. Did I say that right? In Dubai?
In Dubai, right? Yeah.
It became the tallest building at the end of the financial crisis, 2009, or like when the financial crisis, the acute part of it ended.
What's next?
So like,
next?
now, funny enough, the tallest building in the world that's supposed to be completed at the end of this year is another tower in Malaysia. And the Saudi Arabia also was trying to build one called the Jeddah Tower. But I just find it funny that the skyscraper indicator has some of the same feelings at these toppy moments during the Super Bowl. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's a funny theory, but I kind of like it.
Not investment advice. Not investment advice.
But I would equate the equivalent now to the dog coins and everything, obviously. But I mean, it's close. I mean, that we've just taken all the digital real estate. You know, like people now buying digital real estate.
That's true.
Again, I'm not being Fad Bilal here. Like, I'm trying to buy digital real estate too. But you know what I mean?
So wait, when we start living in the metaverse and people start erecting the tallest buildings in the metaverse, like somebody erects a building like stretches from here to Mars, like, oh yeah, this is the top, man. How did they afford all that digital real estate?
Decentraland getting smashed right now. People buying it up, dude. So, I mean, just to come back to the ads, just to finish it off, Jack, we didn't get your take on like your favorite out of all four. I think Trung, you already said your favorite was Larry David one. From your expert advertising opinion, Jack, what was there one that stood out to you? I think you didn't like any of them.
No, I would say give different ones top spots in different categories. I think the framing of the FTX one was great. Like you don't often see a like well articulated reason like why to buy crypto, and 3 out of 4 of those are just like buy crypto. It's like it's not convincing a layman who is, you know, a large swath of people watching the Super Bowl are not like internet native or technology native people. So I think FTX did a good job framing the story as like, oh, here's this invention that maybe was mocked when it first came around.
Right.
And it's on a path to be a very, very prominent part of your life. And you're going to look back and imagine, like, laugh at a world where you thought it was stupid. So I think the framing of that was good. I think overall, like, quality ad, just especially compared to like the storytelling across the board. And Larry David, obviously, perfect execution from him.
Yeah.
And then Coinbase, I think like you have to have like a set on you to do that as an ad and like get that through. So I respect that from just a pure like
pushing it through,
just getting that through and being like, somebody had to stand a meeting and go, yeah, we're going to spend 16 mil on this. And yeah, it sounds like it converted too, but it's also like there's an opportunity for education there, even with the way they got attention, you know? So like you get in from the QR code, but then after you land, it's like buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Whereas it could have been like, you know, there's a kind of a hybrid between the two, maybe. Like imagine if you had two of those working together, or two of those, like the strength of that narrative. So both good for different reasons, I think. And I wonder at this point who hasn't got like the opportunity to claim $10 of free Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think everybody's kind of seen that at this point. So I think FTX, I hope they continue on that path where they're like, let's get some like seriously massive storytelling firepower and frame this up in new ways, because you know the Matt Damon one was just universally criticized, and for good reason. It's like,
you mean crypto.com, yeah,
the crypto.com one with Matt Damon before the Super Bowl that was like climb Mount Everest or like go to space, and it was trying to do what the FTX thing was doing, but it was just too grandiose and ridiculous. So yeah, and then I would say both of those like have merit in different ways.
So, Jack, I think you nailed it, because I want to give you a quote from Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX. This is what he said about the Larry David ad. We need to meet people where they are, and that means embracing skepticism. A lot of people who are now the biggest advocates of crypto once had significant reservations. Brilliant, right? It's exactly what you said. It's like, the reality is this. Not everyone is going to have the pom-poms out, right? So, like, we're going to meet them mentally where they are, and we're going to be, like you said, Jack, when these people look back, though, will they feel like, hey, it's like every time something new came along, we made fun of it, but look what happened. So you're putting it in that class of thing, but doing it so much better than crypto did, where you just have Matt Damon walking around in space and being like, hey, we're like climbing Everest. Right?
Yeah, I would argue there are only skeptics left.
Right.
And Sam Bankman-Fried is like an arbitrage dude, right? He gets arbitrage, and he's like, the arbitrage opportunity in communication is like, everybody has heard of crypto and Bitcoin at this point. So the only angle we have from the narrative side for the like non-believers is like, yeah, this looks ridiculous right now. We understand. Here's why it's not.
Perfectly put.
Yeah, I love that you said that he's an arbitrage guy, because he literally did currency arbitrage, right? Like he did like, was it crypto arbitrage or something like that?
It's Bitcoin in like a Japanese market and selling it back in the US, or someone who's making 10 mil a day.
Yeah, the big spread between what Bitcoin was costing in Japan versus the US. You're right. That's how he started basically down this road. And man, I love, just to summarize what Jack Butcher just said, mind blowing. He's saying that Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX, found the arbitrage of communication and the crypto curious. Is like, what segment of society is not being like approached? Because right now, it's like you said, like all these things, like eToro's like, hey, come join these things. But the crypto person and the skeptics will be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But Sam Bankman-Fried's going to this other part that's being untouched or not being serviced properly.
Yeah, great. Well put, both of you.
And it's like, we should be seeing a lot more if that's like coming from him. And that's another thing, like he runs that company. He's not a CMO. Yeah. Like that's like a founder-led direction on the communication side. And a lot of technical people that found these businesses are not good storytellers, right? Especially not like retail storytellers. So
and they don't believe, not only are they not good, they don't even value it enough to say we want to focus on that.
Right.
I think there's two different things, right? Because like Brian Armstrong is a technical background guy, right? But like, and they might not have done it exactly in the same way, but that needs sign off at someone like his level to be like, okay, I understand the value of doing something ridiculous like this. And but you're right, it's different. That one, you can directly make a pitch to the CEO and say, we're going to get 500,000 people download the app. We're going to be talked about because it's going to stop people in their tracks. The other thing we're interested with QR code is in the last 2 years, QR code's been around forever, but last 2 years, everyone, including my mum and dad, are using QR codes like when they go out somewhere. They go to Starbucks, they go to a restaurant. So it's like everyone's actually ready to be like, oh, what the hell is that?
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah,
that's a great point. That used to be like universally mocked in advertising as well. Like it was like, oh, QR code. There's no reason for a QR code. You're right. It's like riding on a cultural behavior that's like everybody every time they go out, and use a menu is doing that now, right?
And the other thing I'd say is specific to the platform, right? Like, not to be all academic about it, but you can't now use that ad on a YouTube pre-roll, in my opinion, because most 80% of traffic or views on YouTube are on mobile, and you need your mobile device to scan a QR code. So you're going to have to screenshot it and do that. You can't even do that. Whereas on TV, they already know people are second screening. Everyone's on their phone. Like if you're in the bar, everyone's on their phone, looking at the tweets, looking at the memes. I'm looking at Trung. We're in the DM and Trung's like, Jack sends Trung this 50 cent inflation thing. And I'm like, oh, Trung's about to make one live. That's part of the fun of it. When you're watching a YouTube ad or you're watching a banner ad on the internet, you're not scanning a QR code. Right?
Oh, dude, that is so true. I never thought about the second screen.
Yeah.
Man, the mechanics of it, the more we talk about the Coinbase one, it's freaking brilliant.
Yeah, they're clever for sure.
Yeah, that was a very... Well, I'll tell... last thing I'll leave on that is, you guys know who made it? You guys will know more about me than this. Dentsu MB, which is... I know Dentsu's originally Japanese, but I'm assuming this is like the North American counterpart. But what is Dentsu's reputation? Is this consistent with stuff they've done?
So I don't know a lot about him, but it's a good name. I think the guy that mentored me spent a bit of time at Dentsu, like, multinational quality agency.
Yeah.
I wonder,
big brand.
Yes. Man, I'm imagining all of these like big advertising holding companies are trying to get the crypto exchanges businesses in the same way that like, in the 2000s, those are like the golden accounts, right? You want the people that are chucking money around, because you're going to then get the creative talent that wants to work on that business. And like, it's a really like, there's an interesting economy beneath this, like on the creative side, because people thought of crypto until recently as like, oh, you need to be an engineer, or you need to have technical skills, or even be a like interface designer. But now it's prominent enough that like there are opportunities for people in like, visual creative industries or like narrative creative industries to get involved in this stuff. So it's going to be, it's a reason you choose to work at one agency over another. Is like, what clients do you have?
Right.
And how ambitious are they? And that's like, oh, they're willing to spend 20 million to put a QR code on TV, like with no soundtrack. Creatives will be lining up to work for an agency that is like managed to sell that in to a client.
Yeah, that's interesting.
People, this is why you listen to NIA. You're learning about the guts of the industry here. We're not here to talk about memes and jokes, okay? We're not here to show
everything's a meme. All of these are memes too. So
yeah,
definitely.
It's that's a real layer of this as well, right? Like yes, there's the results that come from the ad, but there's all this like waterfall of stuff that comes down the road as a result of doing something interesting or different. Whereas you could just light money on fire and do some generic thing, and it's awareness, but I think what's cool about especially the Coinbase thing is it proves that the Super Bowl ad format is not done yet, right? You can still innovate, and I think maybe it will inspire a bit more creativity next year, because I think at least 80% of the stuff was like eye-gougingly shit.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, to wrap up my thought on it, I actually think Super Bowl ads are still the best opportunity around for a brand moment. Like, even though I'm like a digital marketing person, I love being able to see all the numbers and everything. There aren't many places you're going to get 100 million people watching at the same time. And then, crucially, amplification from social media. You didn't have that in 2000.
Oh yeah, crazy.
So now you're getting the memes. I was talking about it. You got the reaction from FTX doing their version of Sam Bankman-Fried. But you need to have, as a company, you need both talent. You need that like initial splash kind of like storytelling element, and then you need those savvy, quick-witted people to be on the memes, to be on the fast stuff. So it's a really interesting opportunity, man. It's pretty cool to see. But I agree, most of the ads were kind of forgettable. There weren't many others that I even remember, to be honest. So
There was a Meta one. We could have talked about that. You know, the dog thing. Did you see that one?
I saw that
Wait,
one.
hold on. Meta did an ad?
Yeah, you didn't see the Oculus ad?
No, I didn't see it. But now that you
shit.
mentioned
Oculus,
it,
but I didn't
hold
see
on.
it.
Can
Yeah.
we, Jack, pull up something? Hold on a second here. You got one?
What, the Meta ad?
Yeah. Can you
I can pull it up.
explain
It's
what
long
happened?
though. I can
Yeah,
explain.
walk through it.
So basically what happened is like it's like a puppet dog, and it's like performing in this I don't know, dive bar or something, or like like pizza shop or something with his mates, and then like he gets shut down. It's a robot thing, and then he goes like through all his different stages of life where he basically ends up in a dump, right? And he's like about to get like compressed in a like garbage disposal thing. And then
Very dark.
someone, it's really dark. Someone drags him out and then like puts him in this space center where he's like a prop. And then I don't know how he gets it, but one day he straps the Oculus back on and his legs disappear. And then he's back in the original place with his mates doing what he was doing when he was younger. So it's like, it's kind of a dystopian message. It's like, hey, even if your life goes to absolute shambles, just get an Oculus and everything will be great again.
That was an overarching thesis, of that ad. Now that you mentioned, I saw a meme from one. Let's end it on this, but a meme from one of our favorite accounts, a cryptic no something. I can't see what the last word is, but he just has that video image of Walter White, in the lab, working on chemicals, and he goes like, Meta crafting the worst ad ever.
Oh yeah.
That's brilliant.
I think it's like, people are already like nervous of a future where one of the responses I read, have you seen the guy sitting outside a tent with the Meta?
Yeah.
It's basically, they said they literally made that into a Super Bowl ad, like the homeless dude with the
insane.
Oculus on. Mental.
Oh my goodness. All
right, boys, should we move on? I think we've covered that pretty well. Anything else on Super Bowl before we move on to?
That was deep.
That was a great little breakdown. All right, let's move on. So we got Nouns. Jack, you texted us in our group chat at one point. This was a few weeks ago, and you had just been selling the Noun glasses hoodies. I think you called them the Nudie, which was fun. And you said, I'm so long, CCO, it's effing mad. And I hope you don't mind me reading out your messages.
Great.
But
DMs.
DM. And so, look, first of all, I mean, people have heard us talk about this before, but for new listeners or people who haven't heard that episode, let's paint a picture of what nouns are in the NFT space and what CCO is specifically, and why you're so bullish on it.
Let's do CCO first. So, cool. Quite good off the back of the Super Bowl.
Hold on, what does it stand for?
I actually don't know what it maps to, but it's Creative Commons 0, which basically means there are no restrictions to using this IP in a commercial context, in any context, right? You can take the visual, the words, the sound, whatever it is, and repurpose it however you like. So typically, like, to use an image, you would pay a fee based on how many people are gonna see it, how big you're gonna display it.
Like Getty Images, right? Like you got to pay like the license to Getty to use like random photographers.
Exactly. And that's Getty. That's a service that's actually built to distribute IP. Outside of that, there's like brands where if you use it, you're gonna get a cease and desist, or you're gonna get challenged in a court of law somehow, or even like just the contracts that you have to draw up to use IP are incredibly complex, right? Like if two brands collaborate, there's probably a dozen lawyers that have to get together and write contracts and say when and where this can be used and how far this thing needs to be placed away from that thing and blah, blah, blah. So CCO as a concept is essentially like, you can use this IP in any way you want. We like give up all like ownership rights in inverted commas to pursue legal action if someone like uses this in a different context. So that's CCO. Nouns we've talked about on the podcast before, which is primarily a DAO, but built through an NFT project, right? So in the same vein or inspired by some of these 10,000 image profile picture projects, they have a slightly different mechanic where they release one every day, and it's a 24-hour auction. And the proceeds from every sale goes into a treasury, which is then managed by the people who buy the nouns. So they're up to like 250, 260 days. I think there's about 120, 130 holders, and there's about 60 million bucks in this treasury. So as a project, like, they have embraced this idea of CCO. So people own the NFTs that give them governance rights in the DAO, but anybody outside can take any of that visual IP, take the name, take the font that they use, take anything, and build other projects off the back of that, right? And they have this very, this symbol, the glasses, the nouns glasses they call them, which are on every single one of the characters. And they're these, you know, completely square, very recognizable pixelated glasses. They actually showed up in a Super Bowl ad last night.
Really?
They were in like 10 frames of the Bud Light ad. So
wait, the
Bud Light,
like, cartoon glasses are actual real life versions of those glasses?
No, I think they were on top,
CGI,
right?
on a
Okay,
painting.
CGI. Okay.
Yeah. So
Just for people, just visually, I'm just going to share your screen of your hoodie, actually, Jack. So people watching on YouTube can
Perfect.
see it while you're talking about it. You can see that there. It's like, this is the blue one, right?
Yeah.
yeah. So if you pull up, Bilal, if you put in nouns.wtf in the top, just for everyone watching, this is the site where they get auctioned every day. So right now, this one's being auctioned every day. If you use the arrow at the top, you can go back. So we're on Noun 208 today. Every single one of them is going to have a pair of these glasses
And then,
on.
wait, hold on. And the winning bid for these are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is this correct?
Yes.
Oh, so
Most
the
of them.
holy, so, and how much did when the project started, they're doing one a day for 10,000 days. Is this right?
They're doing one a day forever. It's inflationary forever.
Okay. So doing one a day forever. And the first one costed how much?
It has to be 100, 200 ETH. I can't remember exactly, but it was like the first one generally sells for a premium because it's, you know, there's
No,
a
but how much
historical.
was it?
anything.
Okay. What about numbers 10 through 20? What were they selling for? Ballpark.
Around 100. It's hovered around there. I think the lowest it's gotten down to is 30, 40, 50. There's been like a lull over Christmas, but picked back up. So,
And sorry,
and then
Jack, also to call out, sorry, there's a connection with cryptodes here, right? Because we've talked about...
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah. So there have been like other projects that have taken this, essentially this same philosophy, which is like, you can remix any of this content and, you know, use it in whatever context you like. Cryptodes was one of the first projects, and we talked about it in a good amount of detail when that came out a few months ago. And this was one of the reasons I think Cryptodes was like had that initial cultural velocity too, is because it tapped into this bigger narrative of the nouns. Those Cryptodes with that characteristic, the nouns glasses, trade at like a 2 or 3x premium over the, you know, over one that wouldn't have that. So the reason I think it's powerful, my experience in particular gives me like, I think, a different view of it. So in building visualized value and talking to hundreds, thousands of people that are building things on the internet, trying to like establish network effect for themselves, it's very hard, right? It's very hard to, like, you guys both know this, you've built things on the internet, like starting from scratch is extremely difficult. And what's very interesting about this approach is like, if you can pack enough meaning into a symbol that can give someone like a kickstart of like cultural velocity, right? In the same way that you see like a Nike swoosh and you know what that stands for, right? Just do it, or like athletic excellence, or just the notion of like pursuing some physical or anything really, right? The swoosh is like,
Yeah, it's like any type of ambition of like pushing yourself to the limit. It like encapsulates all these ideas right now, right? Like
exactly.
Push yourself to the limit, accomplish things you couldn't believe you could accomplish.
Yeah, and like you know, everyone's an athlete.
Did you tweet the nouns glasses are the Nike swoosh, or is that someone else?
No, I tweet them next to each other. So it's like these are the two schools of thought, right? And the nouns school of thought is like completely nascent. Right? This is the antithesis of brand marketing. It's like, well, if you can't protect the context in which your symbol appears, you have nothing. Like anyone can take that away from you or go and make a competing product or blah, blah. But that was a behavior that came to like, that was standardized in a completely different environment, right? When you're making physical products, or you have a supply chain to protect, or you have like a moat that isn't secured by the virality of something on the internet. So there's like keying into this model that is, you know, the notoriety of a meme on the internet is dependent on how like easy it is to replicate the thing, right? And if you give complete free reign to people to replicate the thing, then one, you have to execute it in a way that people want to reproduce it, right? This is not, you can't just take anything and say, hey, anybody can use this, and it's like a guaranteed path to profitability. It has to be something that people are interested in replicating. So I think they did that. They did that well, but there are mechanical components to it too, where one, it's like incredibly easy to replicate. It's not like, if you think about, I wouldn't say easy, maybe easy is the wrong word to use, but if you think about the Bored Ape aesthetic, it's very, very particular to like a very niche type of artist, right? You can kind of tell the brushstrokes of that artwork is like the work of a few people. Pixel art is very different in that it's like this plug and play system. You have like a grid of pixels, say there's 32 across, 32 down. You could put like, the aesthetic is very recognizable, and it creates this like playground where people can add to this library of stuff, and it all feels like it's related. So I think that like that's another thing they tapped into. And we talked at length about these debates of like crypto punks versus crypto funks, right? And people putting pressure on a artist to basically go back and revert their decision to protect their work. You know, people are like, I should be able to use this thing. Like, I own it. I want the commercial rights to it. And I don't agree with that approach, because that's not, they didn't build it for that, right? It's not in the DNA of the project. Like, we didn't build it that way. Yeah, sure, you can retroactively apply it, but you're not, like, people didn't buy it for that. So people aren't entering and buying into the community because of that feature to begin with. So what makes you think that's a behavior that they're going to be interested in doing? So by setting that precedent from day one, you have this like, you've built a community around the ethos of a, you know, multiplication, CCO, like people that are attracted to that community are not even necessarily looking for a way to monetize the single thing they own. They believe in the thesis, or at least they want to experiment with the thesis of CCO as like this mechanism for value creation. So that's like been running around my head for months and months since I saw it. And the real like moment in time where I got it was like that, the hats, hoodies, like these relatively simple executions of merchandise with that symbol attached to them. Yeah. And you like, this is a Bilal observation. You could see it in the numbers, like how many people click on that when you have that symbol, how many people buy. And that thing is like, there is an affinity for it that exists, and I don't need to own one in order to do that. Like it could continue to do that forever without that. But the thing that is now like compelling me to be a part of it is to like see how they're building it from the inside and have like the ability to vote on how this thing comes to life and the way in which the treasury funds are spent. So how they got Bud Light to put a set of Nouns glasses in their Super Bowl commercial, that's a decision made by the DAO. They bought there was a noun with a beer head, like, I don't know, a month ago now. And the foundation, like the DAO Foundation basically secured that noun to give it to Budweiser.
Oh, amazing.
Budweiser, I think Bud Light's stuck it as their profile picture. So it's like, it's complete experiment in, you know, can you fuel like a different type of brand with this completely different incentive structure and model. And the things that I've seen so far, I think there's like a good shot at it. The other one thing I'll say, which is like a little bit of a philosophical rant in the space, is like a lot of these projects are, let me like try and tie this thing to my identity, right? And it's becoming like these weird identity politics things that you're seeing play out in various degrees of like controversy. Like there's the controversy within CryptoPunks of like how representative they are of the people who are buying them.
Like,
right. And
like
typically,
images, right? There's not enough,
typically the people who have been nerding out in crypto are like a certain demographic, and they buy the characters that look the most like them. Right.
And they bid them up.
Yeah. So, but this is completely different. It's like, this is, you know, the one I got is a duck. There's
I was going to share it so people can have a look. You just bought this one, right?
Yeah, so let's frame it. Jack owns one of these. So
he just got one, dude.
Yeah, he owns one, if that wasn't already clear to everybody.
Yeah, there's like, one's got a skateboard for a head, one's got a DNA helix for a head. Like, and the thing that excites me about that is like, then you can start to think about like the massive broad application of this stuff. Like, there's already a kid's coloring book that these guys built, and it's free. Yeah. Right. So you can take all of these like pieces of IP that actually represent not like nouns, right? Nouns is a funny twist on pronouns, which would be like someone's name, like, sorry, not someone's name, but like about your identity versus this thing that is not you. It's like a thing that anybody can own. Everybody talks about, everybody references. So it's a very different and I think clever way to build this massive movement and community, and like have people attached to the things that they identify with, like the duck. I love Donald Duck. Like actually in a couple episodes time, hopefully I'm gonna have some little Donald Duck
there you go.
Pieces in the back here.
The studio's getting built, son. I see that.
Yeah, so like there's just the interesting little components of it, and it's run by people that really helped me get my head around the whole Web3 and NFT space. We talked about 4156, who was a
4156.
Punk 4156, who was a big character in this like CCO debate, and like actually built this as a response, right? Doesn't sit and shout and be like, hey, this is BS, I want rights to this. He's like, no, I'm like literally dumping my position in projects that don't work this way, and I'm gonna build my own. Yeah, so skin in the game.
That's my respect, right? That's like, I love it when people are just like, you know what, I'm just gonna rebuild.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do what I want.
Can I ask Jack, but his name is Punk 4156, or he or she has whatever. Do punks have this as well?
No.
Because so like, does he still have the punk, or he's no longer owns the?
No,
punk?
he sold it.
But he's still got the name. That's his identity.
To emphasize, he sold it, but he kept on cutting the price of it, which was pissing people in the punks community off, because he's like, you're reducing the value of our asset because you're selling this at a lower cut rate. I remember this. I can't remember what episode it was, but yeah.
We talked about, it was dropping at 500 ETH like every 10 minutes or something. It was like pretty aggressive.
500 ETH is about 150K, 100K, six figures, right?
Yeah, he sold it for 10 mil. Like his punk was like this iconic.
Unreal, man.
Sold it for $10 million, and that was what mostly widely regarded as like he lost a bit of money on it, but based on what the market would bear, obviously he made money on it.
Well, that's perfect transition actually to, can you tell us about, you were sending something around. Did a punk sell for 23 million?
23 million.
5822.
8,000 Ethereum, yeah. So
that's a record.
That's a new record, yeah. So for those who don't know, the top tier punk is an alien. There's 9 of them in the 10,000 supply. Yeah. So somebody claimed this for free 3 years ago, right?
Oh my goodness. You can't even give a return on that because you can't divide something by 0.
Right.
There's like,
I don't know what the transaction history is on it. If you go back to that, Bilal.
on the screen. All right.
Yeah, go back to the screen and click the link, and then you'll be able to see like where it's changed hands.
Yeah, let's walk through some of the frequency and some of the highlights of the numbers here.
Let me 1 second here.
But this guy, I believe his name Deepak, and he's the CEO of Chain.com. Yeah, here he is.
You can see that, yeah?
So if you go to that link,
Lava
which
Labs?
is just after, that's the one, yeah. You'll see that you should see the transaction history on it.
You're seeing Lava Labs on the screen
One
share.
of 9 alien punks.
Yeah.
This punk has one attribute. Unreal, man.
And then if you go down, you have all the transaction history. So here you go.
Oh.
I don't know if it ever changed hands like via the marketplace.
Bid. Yeah, keep going down. Bilal, let's go all the way down. There's a transfer last year, February 21.
Well, it doesn't say the price. Is that normal?
No, that's if it didn't transact through the platform, someone transferred it privately, right?
Got it.
So it might be somebody like putting it in one wallet and transferring it to a cold storage or whatever.
You can
This
see here,
time last year-
2017 sold 8 ETH.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Bilal, let me walk through these numbers that you're showing here. So in July 2017, this CryptoPunk's worth $1,600. Fast forward to January 2021, it's worth $2,700. Fast forward 2 years, it's worth $25 million. So it jumped from 2.7K to 25 million in 2 years. Oh my.
Jesus Christmas.
Yeah.
You say Trung. That's hard.
It is Jesus Christmas.
So this guy apparently bought it on leverage too, based on that reply.
How does that even work? I don't even.
I believe that's what you call the skyscraper indicator, boy.
Bringing it back, exactly.
So I'm assuming he deposited like 30 million bucks worth of Ethereum in Compound, and then took out 23 and bought this. Right, and then
Like a collateralized loan sort of thing.
Exactly. The bet is that ETH increases in value to the extent that you can
you
pay
explain
the
Compound?
obligation.
What is the Compound situation here? How does that work?
Compound Finance is like a DeFi pool, and Bilal, correct me if I'm getting anything wrong here, but they accept like 10 or 12 different tokens. So Ethereum, like I think 3 different stable coins, maybe Aave. And it's a really simple interface. Like you can basically check any of your tokens as collateral into Compound, and then it will give you there you go. Yeah. So there's a supply market which you can contribute to. So say you put 100 grand in a supply market, they'll lend you back 60 grand at X%. So it's like collateralized loans for crypto.
This is, I'm not saying this in a negative way. This has skyscraper indicator feelings all over it. I'm playing.
Trung is
it's
back
smart.
to fiat fan.
Yeah, no, I mean like, I did some reading on
fan.
Compound. It's, it's smart, right? There's always assets that no banks will touch. And so it's just free bips to be made. And it looks like they're doing it at pretty reasonable rates. And the interface looks very
Yes, one of the
slick.
staple like DeFi kind of blue chip DeFi platforms.
Yeah.
I can never remember which one's which because they all use similar kind of words. But
Great name,
so that's
by the way.
interesting.
Great name.
Yes,
And I think it's like the
basically putting up as
optionality of
collateral to then borrow.
Yeah, and I think it's like this is, as mad as it sounds to say, like this is built for people that are moving obscene amounts of money around, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you're putting 5 figures in there, you're going to see, I don't know, 50 cents of interest a month. Like it's not a savings account. It's like financial engineering. Like if you understand where I'm not even going to do this explanation justice, but if you think you can get like a better yield somewhere and you don't sell, like it's a way around like the obligations of selling crypto that's appreciated, right? You don't pay tax on borrowed income, not investment advice, etc., etc.
We've talked about how rich people, not even in crypto, across the board for years, you have your collateral, you don't sell it because when you sell it, you have capital gains tax. So if you're going to pay 25% or whatever the amount is, depending on where you are, instead you'll just take a loan on that collateral, pay 2-3%. And so that's kind of, but this is not going to Goldman Sachs and speaking to Johnny Rich guy, right? You're doing this on
Johnny Rich managing director guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Bilal just hasn't come up with the full on the nickname, the jokey nickname.
I made that one up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't. But yeah, so but this one is done through a smart contract. You're like clicking a button. It verifies there's an amount in there. You take out the loan.
Not Johnny MD over here, okay?
Exactly. So anyway,
and there's varying degrees of risk, right? There's like collateral pools that'll pay you 30%, but the chances that somebody's going in there and draining the whole thing is a lot higher than if you're getting paid half a percent. Right.
The smart contract risk.
Yeah. So history has been made once more.
Yeah, and this will not be the last time we have a record-breaking CryptoPunk sale, I'm sure.
Wow, Fiat Fan laying it down, man.
There it is.
There's a auction at Christie's for 108 or 109 punks coming up soon. Christie's or Sotheby's. So
something will be broken.
It's interesting, like why people would opt to do that. I guess the press is huge. And but you're obviously paying a huge premium to sell them at an auction house. I don't know if you're going to make that.
Your punk's winning. Your punk is winning. The punk you own.
You still have a punk, right, Jack?
I got 2, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. You're winning. Like, this is good for you.
Yeah, we'll see. And like talking about collateralized loans, people have now built platforms where you can deposit NFTs as collateral too.
Yeah.
So
I saw that even for getting a mortgage. I saw. So actually, the clicks to bricks we talked about for you.
You haven't got to get rid of them.
Pioneer right here, Jack Butcher.
Well, I sold mine, man. So I'm a freaking.
But I mean, like you pioneer clicks to bricks, brother.
All right, that was a great summary, Jack. Thanks for doing that. I know you're going to have to jump in a second. The last
you gotta jump at 2, yeah?
Anything else on the NFTs before we wrap that up, boys?
I think that was good. I'll so I'm going to be joining all of the like town halls for the DAO, and I think this is just like in the few places I've been, this is the one DAO where people have actually referenced like very well run and
listening into to
listen
see how,
in
like,
and get involved. And I'm trying to bring some of that knowledge back to the listeners of NIA. So
that's amazing, man. Well,
beautiful.
Congrats on the noun.
Thank you.
I like it. All right, Trung.
Jack, if you can hang cool. If not, rewatch this because you're going to learn something. For the listeners here, I pulled up the slides. So as part of the Heather Morgan, Ilya Lichtenstein, a $4.5 billion Bitcoin heist, one of the things that came out of it was Heather Morgan, a.k.a. Razzlekhan, which is her rapper alias. Some screenshots came out of a talk she gave at a NYC salon. I think this is some a TED Talkish type of event. I don't know if you're familiar, but I found 4 slides on the internet. They kind of went around the internet. So she gave a whole course, a whole talk about social engineering, which is hilarious, right? It just adds another layer to like everything that happened with the heist and her rapper personality. I just want to talk to through some of her social engineering slides because I think it's hilarious and they're actually very practical tips. So her slides were about crashing any event. So if you wanted to crash an event, what would you do and what were the levers that you can pull? So one thing that I will tee this up with was, here's the first slide, but before I get into that, let me explain to Bilal. I was like,
yeah, go on.
So the software company that she normally runs is called SalesFolk, and it helps B2B companies work on cold emails. So like her whole shtick is that she knows how to social engineer people. And full disclosure, I received Twitter DMs from Heather Morgan in November 2020.
Did they come across as automated? Did they come across as like a real person?
So it's all part of her social engineering kind of image. So a couple of her of articles for Forbes, they're all in the public domain. She wrote a few articles about social engineering. One of them was saying that Sacha Baron Cohen is the greatest social engineer ever. So Sacha Baron Cohen, for the people who don't know, is the creator and actor behind Borat, behind
Ali G.
Bruno, Ali G. So his whole thing is he knows how to create personalities and invade spaces and get into spaces and elicit ridiculous responses, right?
Oh, yeah. He's a king at that.
He's a king, right? I mean, he's the UK. I mean, you guys know Ali G growing up.
Ali G growing up, that was like, I watched it with my dad. I mean,
he's the
my
best,
dad
right?
will be saying Booyakasha.
Booyakasha. Well, his most recent one, the one that she's writing about was, did you watch the thing? He did a thing called This Is America. He basically came up with
OJ?
He made like 5 characters, right? And each character he builds like this background about them and like invades different places. He interviewed Dick Cheney. He gave Dick Cheney a water jug for what, the waterboarding accusations against Guantanamo Bay. Like Dick Cheney basically signed off on. During an interview, he gave Dick Cheney a water jug to have him sign it. So the whole point is like she is a student of Sacha Baron Cohen in the sense of like she wanted to learn from him how to take the ideas of social engineering. And basically, for the listeners and viewers here, what social engineering means to Heather Morgan is the ability to, make people do stuff that they otherwise wouldn't do. It's like persuasion, right? And she's just talking specifically about in her presentation how to break into events. I just think it's funny. It gives you really a look into her mind. But so here she is at the salon. That's her. How to social engineer your way into anything. Here's the slide. This is really funny.
I love that this is like someone took a picture, like
hilarious, audience, right? So she goes, if you want to crash an event, you need to have stuff on you that helps you kind of navigate the place, right? So she's like, you should have badges to look official, press passes. You want cigarettes and gum so you can share it with people. And that kind of uses on the persuasion technique of reciprocity, right? If you give somebody a stick of gum, they're like, oh, yo, thanks for the gum. Like, how can I help you, right?
Yeah.
Some other stuff she does is like a notebook to look like a journalist, a professional camera to look like a photographer. The last two are hilarious. Wear a black shirt in case you need to look like security, right? So you can start. Dumb. That's so. Then the last one is wear layers of clothing in case you need to modify because somebody's chasing you. I mean, this is all. I
can't make this up, man.
These are like CIA tactics. I bet you they teach their agents like these are like the moves when you need to navigate spaces, right? And so the next part is hilarious. So this is what she's done in the past to. In addition to everything she's bringing, which is like the badges and the black shirt, she's also learning some techniques, which I've actually used at the club. Have you ever been at a nightclub? And wait, Bilal, so have you ever been at a nightclub?
Mrs. Fan, turn away.
Yeah, Mrs. Fan, don't listen. Have you ever been at a nightclub and your buddies are kind of circling the club and you don't know what to do and you need to look like you're occupied, so you pretend like you're on your phone?
Yeah, of course. It's like the default. Yeah.
It's like the old, you don't want to look like a total knob, so you're pretending like you're texting somebody and like you have friends. So like one of her tips is like pretend to be on the phone if like people are following you around or like think you're looking suspicious. And the other thing she does is this is so sketchy, lurk and listen. They just start eavesdropping on conversation.
Label, man.
Right. It's just crazy. And this is her whole thing. And the last thing I'll show is, which is hilarious, was she actually shows pictures at the end of her presentation of all the different places she broke into.
That she didn't talk about the Bitcoin exchange. Yeah,
she didn't talk about the $4.5 billion Bitcoin heist. To be clear, she wasn't involved in the hack. She was laundering the money. This was my theory. Her and her husband, Ilya Lichtenstein, they traveled quite a bit, were networked globally, Southeast Asia, Middle East. I suspect the hackers were from an emerging market, potentially Southeast Asia, and that they basically pitched themselves as like the Western know-how to launder the money, right? And
this is all speculation, right?
All speculation.
This is the fan.
No. Well, I mean, like her master's thesis was about food stability in the Middle East. She studied at the University of Cairo. She's very well traveled. Like if you, because I did it, when I realized she had messaged me, I wrote a whole thing about it for my Substack. She, you search Vietnam under her name on her Twitter, tons of things come. She lived there. She has lots of friends in Vietnam. She's written 4 articles about Vietnamese entrepreneurs. But she's like, seems to be very well plugged into Southeast Asia for some reason. And I'm like, this is kind of sketchy. Vietnam has a pretty deep connections to crypto in the sense of like, I think a quarter or a third of the population owns crypto because they don't really trust the government. The TLDR being this, she did a whole presentation on social engineering. And if people enjoyed that, I might try to spin up a cohort-based course around it.
Could you imagine doing that? That's hilarious. Dude, I mean, we got to wrap up in a second, but I think with her, like the fact, it's just such a weird story. Like, I feel like there's going to be more that comes out. This could easily be a movie. Like, the story of her.
Netflix is already doing a documentary.
Oh, they already are?
Already doing a documentary.
The TikTok videos of her, I think when we did the last episode, we talked for like 2 minutes on this.
Yeah.
And since then, more's come out. But just the whole story around like the TikTok videos, her rapping, like she's literally picking up chopsticks with her feet. Like,
it's
and
bizarre.
to think this person could be doing something like what she was doing. I don't know anything about the guy. Like, I haven't read much about him.
He went to Y Combinator.
Okay.
Yeah, he went to Y Combinator, University of Wisconsin. He had a number of startups. He was a mentor for 500 startups, a very legitimate organization.
Yeah.
A lot of the documents came out are super fascinating. Like they found an Excel spreadsheet on his computer that just showed all the different Bitcoin accounts they had. And he's like, oh, this one's dead. This one's been seized. And their apartment had $40K in cash. They found books that were hollowed out, like where you could put USBs with your with your private keys if you need it. But I mean, the other part being like, are they taking the fall? That also sounds like it's possible, right? Like that's a very credible theory to me too. It's like you're thinking these two could pull this off. There's definitely way more that's not.
I mean, there were a few things that stood out to me, like the Dropbox. Like I think the guy or both of them were storing private keys in Dropbox.
Yeah,
which is just like
in the cloud. But okay, this is the thing. They're leaving it plain text private keys in the cloud, but the actual access to their cloud account was encrypted. So like they still had the plain text sounds bad, but there was encryption levels that done.
Yeah. I think it's more just generally like we've joked on the show around putting under Jack's kettlebell, right? Like there's a reason. Like,
well, what did the Winklevoss twins do, right? The Winklevoss twins cut up their codes, put them in like a dozen banks around the country.
Yeah, that's what Vitalik did as well.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, in different locations, so you need to. Like even if you can break into one person's house, which is already unlikely, you're gonna need to find it in several places.
Vitalik talked about it. You know that he when he was airdropped the Shibu, he had to call his family who has half of the private key of his. Yeah, they had to read it out. Like you're right. I was
surprised he was talking about this so openly because he's kind of telling people like
how to.
Yeah, I mean, this is where my stuff is. Obviously, it's still very difficult, but for criminals, you don't want to give
Vitalik
anything
is like
away.
one of the most famous people in the tech world, right?
I know, completely. Anyway, good little summary there. I know we got, I think the one thing I did want to finish us off on was meme of the week at the end of the show. We've done quite a few of these screen shares today, but this was hilarious, man. This was from our very own Trung Phan. And this was, how much would your start raise for people only listening? You've got Elizabeth Holmes, CEO, Simon Leviev, CFO from the Tinder Swindler, Heather Morgan, head of comms, and then Billy McFarlane, VP of logistics. This was cracking me up.
That was the one that got the most responses when the people reading it, they're like, you're kind of chuckling, and then you see Billy McFarlane, who did the Fire Festival, VP logistics.
Legendary documentary, man, as well.
There's two actually. What would have been funnier, VP logistics or VP events? Those are like the two options.
Thinking events there too. But anyway, great summary, man. I think we've probably hit in time as well. But anything else, Trung, before we wrap up, mate?
No, great episode. That was a lot, and can't thank our listeners enough. All we have to say is this: we got big things coming up. People have been asking us to do more content. We're gonna deliver. There's going to be laughs everywhere.
We've just been,
so much laughter.
We've done, 44 episodes, which is crazy. I mean, this has been the first time, honestly, even for me, I've been able to do it every week because it's just
crazy.
Like we kind of hold each other accountable even when we're traveling. Yeah. Like I'm going to be in Mexico for next month and I'll be doing it. Yeah, so that'll be fun, but we've still got to get some content out for people and it's been a lot of fun, man. So yeah, watch out for that. Make sure you're in the Telegram group. That's where we're chatting with people who are really loving the podcast. We talk about stuff, we share memes, we share articles, stuff that we're not able to share on the podcast because we can only share like 3 to 5 things a week. So jump in there, and as always, keep spreading the word in the DMs, the group chats. Send it to your fiat friends on Slack and email, and
leave some reviews on Apple. Hit the 5 stars or 1 star on Spotify. Doesn't matter.
Spotify's got it. Yeah, whatever you want to do. But yeah, we really appreciate all the love and support from everyone. Keep sharing that out, and we will see you in the next one.